All right, this problem is kind of a classic problem that potentially you'll see used all over the place. It's asking us to build a set of stairs like this. So we can do that using the line function that we did before. So I just copied and pasted that down from above, so make sure you do that. And then let's define our stairs function. So define stairs, make sure I define stairs in. Alright, returns a string. Again, this is going to be a multi-line string with hash characters in lines tall, with hash characters in the shape of left aligned stairs in lines tall. There we go. Okay, so we know we're going to want to make a call to line. Whoops, I forgot to end my doc string. There we go. We know we're going to make a call to line, and we're going to want to pass an in, probably. But if we do make a call to line and pass an in for every single time, so we know we want it to be in high. So in the case of this pyramid up here, we want it to be 5 high if we put stairs 5. So 5, 5, 5. So as we're going through this, imagine n equals 5 for our definitions here. So for I in range 5, so build 5 lines. And again, we're gonna do it the same way that we did before, where we start off with a string that we add onto, an empty string. And so we're going to want to make our stair string, every time we go through it, be equal to itself plus line in plus new line, right? Now, if you're paying attention, then you'll know that this isn't going to work. And think about why it isn't going to work for a second. Pause if you have to, really think about it, and then we'll click run here. And then, of course, that's not going to do anything because I didn't actually make a call to my function. So let me do that first. There we go. All right, now let's run it. So, of course, that didn't make a set of stairs, right? Because every time through, we just passed in line in, which isn't going to work because we want it to be, this. We want it to be this. So instead, we want the first line to always print 1 character. We want the second line to always print 2 characters. We want the third line to always print 3 characters. So let's make sure that happens, right? Let's go ahead and say for I in range in, instead of printing in lines, what if we print lines that are I long, that are iterator long? So the first time through, it'll print, a short line. The next time through, it'll print a line that's 1 longer. The next time through, it'll print a line that's 1 longer. So let's do that. Okay, so this looks right at first glance, but if you check it out, you'll notice that it is definitely wrong because we only have 4 steps in our stair here, and also this first line up here is completely empty. So we know something's gone wrong. So what's causing this? Think about it. What's causing this? The answer is, of course, that when we do I in range n, we're starting 0 index. So our first time through is 0. So, we could change this for loop to make it so where this for loop starts at 1, or we can change it in a different way. Instead of having line of I, if we do line of I plus 1, think about what this will do. The first time through, it'll make a line of 1, which is 0 plus 1 long. The second time through, it'll make a line of 2, which is 1 plus 2 long. The third time through, it'll make a line of 3, which is 2 plus 1 long. So every time it's going to iterate I by 1, but also add 1 onto it when we make this call to line. And that's going to get us this set of stairs. So take a look at that. Make sure you've got this working. Make sure you find it's acceptable. I'm going to save my code here. I'm going to check what they have for their answer. So theirs is written the same way as mine, except here they have called their iterator something different. It looks like they have it set to level length, which in this case means how long is each level of your staircase. So that makes it a little more obvious, but though I disagree with this using this as the variable name, because actually this variable is never going to be equal to the actual length of the level. It's going to be 0 the first time through, and that isn't actually the length of this. And so it adds 1 onto level length when it calls line, which isn't actually true, right? If you think about it, that's not what this variable actually is standing for. This variable actually, if we were naming it correctly, it would be level length minus 1, right? But obviously that's not a good code, a good variable name. It's too long. It's unwieldy, even though it describes what it actually is. And so in this case, I would maybe still just go with the iterator, just because it's kind of convention that we use I to mean iterator when we're going through a range of numbers. I appreciate what they tried to do here with this variable name, but I think it makes it actually more confusing than it was already. So we could try to come up with a variable name that works. If they were going to use this variable name here, level length, they should really rewrite this function so that it starts this for loop at 1. It initializes the for loop at 1 rather than at 0 if they want to do that. So this problem down below here is kind of a similar thing to what we've been doing so far up here. It's asking us to make a function spaceline that returns a line that takes 2 arguments, spaces and hashes, and returns a line with exactly that number of spaces followed by exactly that number of hashes. So, for example, spaceline 3, 5 with 3 for the spaces and 5 for the hashes will print 1, 2, 3 spaces followed by 5 hashes. So let's go ahead and do that. This isn't going to be very difficult. We have this runs pretty much exactly the same as our regular line code that we did before. So think about this being the difference between our line function and our spaceline function is the same as the difference between our square function and our rectangle function. This essentially is just a more general version of that. So, where that can only draw a line with 0 spaces, this can draw a line with as many leading spaces as you want. So let's write our docstring here. Returns a line with spaces blank spaces to make it more specific. That's still a bad string. I would find a way to rewrite that to make that more clear. Followed by hashes, hash characters. There we go. That should be, actually, it doesn't return a line, it returns a string. There we go. Okay, so we'll just do our same thing. Line string equals this, and then for I in range spaces, we're going to iterate line string to make it equal to line string plus a space. And we're going to do the same thing for I in range hashes. We're going to take line string and then again iterate through it and add in a hash. So this right here is essentially the same exact code as our line function from earlier. And we're just going to make sure that we return line string. And then we're going to add in a print statement down below to make sure this works. Print space line 3, 5. So we're expecting this to return 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3 spaces followed by 5 hashes. So there you go. It's now a more generalized version of that line function that we wrote earlier. And all we added was a for loop to run through and add in the spaces first.